Basil couldn't believe his ears when he heard his parents say, "You can never marry that girl." It all started a few months ago. Basil, a rich prince, lived in a big palace in our village. Everyone respected him and his family. One day, while walking through the market, he saw a girl named Nika. Nika was poor and sold vegetables to help her family. Basil was charmed by her kindness and beautiful smile. He went back to the market every day just to see her and buy vegetables. Basil and Nika soon became friends. They talked and laughed together. Basil loved how Nika treated everyone with kindness, even though she didn't have much. After a while, Basil realized he was in love with Nika. One evening, Basil decided to tell his parents about Nika. He hoped they would understand. But when he told them, they were very angry. His father, Ugu, said, "A prince must marry a girl from a rich family." His mother, Eli, added, "What will people think if you marry a poor girl?" Basil felt sad and confused. He loved Nika but didn't want to disobey his parents. He tried to talk to them many times, but they always said no. They even stopped giving him money, hoping he would forget about Nika. But Basil couldn't forget her. He secretly met Nika in the evenings, and they talked about their dreams. Nika loved Basil too, but she didn't want to cause trouble between him and his parents. She told him, "Maybe we should stop seeing each other. I don't want to make your parents unhappy." Basil didn't agree. He said, "We will find a way. Love is more important than money." One day, Basil's parents found out about their secret meetings. They were furious. They warned Basil that if he continued seeing Nika, they would send him away from the village. Basil was heartbroken. He couldn't imagine leaving Nika or his family. As days passed, Basil became more determined. He thought of a plan. He told Nika, "We will leave this village and start a new life where no one can stop us." Nika was scared but agreed because she loved Basil very much. The night they planned to leave, Basil's best friend, Kenny, found out about their plan. Kenny was worried. He said, "Basil, think about this. Running away is dangerous. Let's try to talk to your parents one more time." Basil wasn't sure. He felt trapped between his love for Nika and his duty to his family. But he decided to give it one last try. The next morning, Basil and Kenny went to Basil's parents. Basil begged them to listen. "I love Nika," he said. "She is kind and good. Please, give her a chance." His parents looked at each other. For the first time, they saw how serious Basil was. Ugu sighed and said, "Let us meet this girl." Basil's heart raced as he led his parents to the market where Nika sold her vegetables. Nika saw them approaching and smiled at Basil, but her smile faded when she saw his serious expression and the stern faces of his parents. "Nika," Basil said softly, "these are my parents. Father, mother, this is Nika." Nika greeted them politely, bowing her head in respect. Ugu and Eli looked at her with a mix of curiosity and skepticism. For a moment, no one spoke. Eli finally broke the silence. "Tell us about yourself, Nika. Why do you think you are fit to be with our son?" Nika took a deep breath. "I am Nika. My family is poor, but we work hard and are happy. I love Basil not because of his wealth, but because of his heart. He is kind and humble, and he treats everyone with respect." Ugu's face softened a little, but he still looked unsure. "Kindness and love are important, but our family has responsibilities. Can you handle the life that comes with being part of our family?" Nika nodded. "I believe I can. I may not know everything about being rich, but I am willing to learn and do my best." Eli looked at Basil. "What do you see in her, Basil? Why her?" Basil took Nika's hand and looked into her eyes. Mother, father, Nika has shown me what true kindness and strength look like. She makes me want to be a better person. I know she can make our family better too. Eli and Ugu exchanged a long look. They could see how much Nika meant to their son, but they were still hesitant. Eli said, "We will give this some thought. For now, Nika, you may visit our home and we will see how things go." Basil smiled, feeling a glimmer of hope. "Thank you, Mother. Thank you, Father." The next few days were tense. Nika visited the palace, trying her best to fit in and show Ugu and Eli that she could be part of their world. She helped Eli with household tasks and listened to Ugu's stories about their family's history. Slowly, the ice began to melt. Ugu appreciated Nika's willingness to learn and her respect for their traditions. Eli started to see Nika's genuine nature and her positive influence on Basil. However, not everyone in the village was happy about this. Some people whispered behind their backs, saying a poor girl like Nika didn't belong with the prince. Basil and Nika ignored the whispers and focused on proving their love was real. One evening, as the family gathered for dinner, Ugu spoke up. "Nika, you have shown us that you have a good heart. But, we need to see how you handle challenges. Tomorrow, there will be a village festival, and you will help organize it. This will show us if you can handle the responsibilities of our family." Nika nodded, determined. "I will do my best." The next day was busy and chaotic. Nika worked tirelessly, coordinating events, helping with decorations, and making sure everyone was happy. Despite some hiccups, the festival turned out to be a great success. Ugu and Eli watched closely, impressed by Nika's hard work and leadership. That night, as the festival lights twinkled and music filled the air, Ugu called Basil and Nika to the side. "You have done well, Nika. You have proven that you are not just kind but also strong and capable." Eli nodded in agreement. "We still have concerns, but we can see how much you love each other. We will give this union our blessing, but remember, it won't be easy. You must always work together and support each other." Basil and Nika embraced, tears of joy in their eyes. "Thank you, Father." "Thank you, Mother," Basil said. "We will make you proud." As the night continued, Basil and Nika danced together, surrounded by their supportive friends and family. The journey ahead was still uncertain, but they knew they had each other. As the days went by, Ugu and Eli's initial acceptance of Nika began to waver. The whispers in the village grew louder, and many influential families expressed their disapproval of Basil's choice. Ugu and Eli felt the pressure mounting. They feared the consequences of breaking with tradition. One evening, Ugu called Basil into his study. The room was dimly lit, and the atmosphere was heavy with tension. "Basil," Ugu began, "your mother and I have thought long and hard about this. We know you love Nika, but we cannot ignore the responsibilities that come with our position. The village is against this union, and we must think of our family's legacy." Basil's heart sank. "Father, Nika has proven herself. She is kind, hardworking, and she loves me. Why should it matter that she is poor?" Eli entered the room, her face solemn. "Basil, it's not just about us. It's about the expectations of our people. They look up to us, and they believe that a prince should marry someone of equal status. We have tried to accept Nika, but we cannot go against the will of our people." Basil felt a wave of anger and frustration. "But what about love? Doesn't that matter at all?" Ugu sighed deeply. "Love is important, son, but so are duty and tradition. We have made our decision. You must end this relationship." Basil stormed out of the room, his mind racing. He found Nika waiting in the garden, her face lighting up when she saw him. But when she noticed his troubled expression, her smile faded. "Basil, what's wrong?" Nika asked, concern in her voice. Basil took her hands in his and looked into her eyes. "My parents have decided. They want us to end our relationship. They can't go against the village's wishes." Nika's eyes filled with tears. "But we love each other. How can they do this?" Basil pulled her into a tight embrace. "I don't know, Nika. But I promise you, I will not give up. We will find a way to be together, no matter what." The days that followed were filled with heartache. Basil's parents kept a close watch on him, making it difficult for him to see Nika. They hoped that with time, Basil would forget about her and move on. One day, Nika decided to visit Basil's parents. She wanted to plead with them, to show them how much she loved their son. She gathered all her courage and walked to the palace. Eli opened the door and was surprised to see Nika standing there. "What are you doing here?" she asked, her tone cold. "Please, I need to speak with you and Ugu," Nika said, her voice trembling but determined. Eli led her to the study where Ugu was. Nika took a deep breath and began to speak. "I know you don't think I'm good enough for Basil because I'm poor. But I love him with all my heart. He makes me a better person, and I believe I can make him happy too. Please, give us a chance." Ugu looked at Nika, his face stern. "We understand that you love our son, Nika. But love alone is not enough. Our family has a legacy to uphold, and we cannot allow this relationship to continue." Eli nodded in agreement. "We have already made our decision. It's best for you and Basil to move on with your lives." Nika's heart broke at their words. She realized that no matter how much she loved Basil, his parents would never accept her. With tears in her eyes, she turned and left the palace, feeling more defeated than ever. Basil, who had been secretly watching from the shadows, felt his heart shatter as he saw Nika leave in tears. He knew he had to do something drastic if he wanted to be with the love of his life. Basil couldn't bear to see Nika in so much pain. That night, he sneaked out of the palace and went to Nika's house. She was sitting outside, looking up at the stars, tears streaming down her face. "Nika," Basil whispered as he approached her. She turned to him, her eyes filled with sorrow and surprise. "Basil, you shouldn't be here," Nika said, her voice trembling. "Your parents will be furious." "I don't care anymore," Basil replied, sitting beside her. "I can't stand to be apart from you. We'll find a way to be together, no matter what." Nika leaned into Basil, finding comfort in his presence. "But how? Your parents have made it clear that they won't accept us." Basil sighed. "I don't know yet. But I promise I won't give up. We just have to stay strong and believe in our love." The next day, Ugu and Eli discovered Basil's nighttime visit. They decided to take more drastic measures to keep Basil and Nika apart. Ugu arranged for Basil to be sent away to a distant city to stay with relatives, hoping that distance would make Basil forget Nika. When Basil learned of his parents' plan, he was devastated. "You can't do this," he shouted. "You can't just send me away." Ugu remained firm. "This is for your own good, Basil. You need to understand your responsibilities and the importance of our family's legacy." Eli tried to soothe him. "In time, you will see that this is the best decision for everyone. You will meet other people, and you will move on." Basil felt hopeless. He didn't know how he could bear to be so far from Nika. But he had no choice. The day came when he had to leave, and he went to say goodbye to Nika. They met at their usual spot in the market. Nika's eyes were filled with tears as Basil explained the situation. "They are sending me away, Nika. I don't know when I'll be back. Nika clung to him, sobbing. What will we do, Basil? How can we stay together if you're so far away? Basil held her tightly. We have to believe in our love. Write to me, and I'll write back. We'll find a way. I promise. As Basil left the village, he felt a deep sadness. The journey was long and lonely, but he kept thinking of Nika and their promise to each other. Meanwhile, Nika continued her daily life, waiting for any word from Basil. The first few weeks were unbearable. Basil's letters were few and far between due to the distance, but each one gave Nika hope. She read his words over and over, holding on to the dream that they would be reunited. However, Basil's parents weren't done. They intercepted his letters, hoping to break the couple's bond. They told Basil that Nika had moved on and didn't care for him anymore, and they told Nika the same about Basil. Both Nika and Basil were heartbroken, thinking the other had given up. Nika's days grew darker as she tried to move on, but she couldn't forget Basil. Basil, too, felt the weight of despair, but he couldn't shake his love for Nika. One day, Kenny, Basil's loyal friend, visited Nika. He had heard about the deceit and wanted to help. Nika, I don't believe Basil has forgotten you. Something is wrong. I will help you find the truth. Kenny traveled to the distant city where Basil was staying. He found Basil in a state of sorrow, convinced that Nika had abandoned him. Basil, your parents lied to you, Kenny revealed. Nika has not moved on. She loves you and has been waiting for you. Basil's heart soared with hope. I knew it. I knew our love was real. With Kenny's help, Basil devised a plan to return to the village and reunite with Nika. They traveled secretly, avoiding Ugu and Eli's spies. When they finally reached the village, Basil went straight to Nika's house. Nika was stunned and overjoyed to see Basil. They embraced, tears of happiness flowing. I never stopped loving you, Nika whispered. Nor did I, Basil replied. We will face whatever comes together. But their reunion was short-lived. Ugu and Eli soon found out about Basil's return and were furious. They called a meeting with the village elders to discuss the situation, hoping to force Basil to obey their wishes. The village elders gathered in the central square, their faces stern as they listened to Ugu and Eli's concerns. Basil and Nika stood before them, holding hands, determined to defend their love. One of the elders, an old and wise man named Chief Obina, spoke up. Basil, Nika, we have heard the concerns of your parents. This is not just about love, it is about the responsibilities and expectations that come with being a prince. Do you understand the weight of this? Basil nodded. Yes, Chief Obina, we understand. But love should not be denied because of wealth or status. Nika has proven time and again that she is kind, strong, and capable. She will be a great partner in leading our people. Nika added, I know I come from a poor family, but I am willing to learn and do everything I can to support Basil and this village. Love and unity are what make a family strong, not money. The elders whispered among themselves, considering the couple's words. Chief Obina raised his hand to silence the murmurs. Love is indeed powerful, and it can bring great strength. We must consider not only tradition but also the happiness and unity of our community. Eli and Ugu were still not convinced. But what about the expectations of our people? They will not accept this union, Eli insisted. Chief Obina looked at the gathered villagers. Let us ask the people what they think. If they support this union, we should give our blessing. If not, then we must respect their decision. The villagers had been watching the proceedings intently. Many of them admired Basil and Nika's courage and determination. One by one, they began to speak up. I have seen Nika help anyone in need, even when she had little herself, said Mom Nkechi, a respected elder in the community. She has a good heart. Prince Basil has always been fair and just, added another villager. If he believes Nika is the right partner for him, we should trust his judgment. The murmurs of agreement grew louder, and soon, it was clear that the majority of the villagers supported Basil and Nika. Chief Obina smiled. It seems the people have spoken. Love and unity are what make us strong. Basil, Nika, you have our blessing. Basil and Nika's faces lit up with joy. They turned to Ugu and Eli, who still looked hesitant. But seeing the overwhelming support from the village, Ugu sighed and nodded. If this is what the people want, then we will accept it. Eli, her eyes softening, approached Nika and took her hand. I see now how much you love each other. Welcome to our family, Nika. The village erupted in cheers as Basil and Nika embraced. Their love had triumphed over the obstacles placed before them. The celebration that followed was the grandest the village had ever seen. Basil and Nika danced together, surrounded by their friends, family, and the supportive villagers. From that day on, Basil and Nika worked together to lead the village with kindness and fairness. They showed everyone that love could bridge any gap and that unity and understanding were more important than wealth or status. If you love this story, please like and share. And please subscribe to this channel for more wonderful stories. See you in our next video.